Hi, everyone. This is Anthony Kuzub of the Toronto Audio Engineering Society. We are here today at Expo19, which is our inaugural, I'm going to call it a trade show exhibition of futurist technology. What we're trying to bring to the community of Toronto are AES members and AES supporters who have interesting new technologies to share with our community. The hard part about throwing an event like this is there isn't really a music store or a professional outlet that somebody can go and explore these types of technologies. But by bringing them all together into one building, like the CBC is hosting us, it makes for a very interesting environment for everyone. Today I am first joined by Kevin Lyver of Beck Systems.
Hi, Anthony. How are you?
Good, Kevin. Kevin and I worked together before I worked for the CBC.
3 years, I think. Yeah,
3 years, and then while I was in college, there was a bit of stuff, and there's the website, too.
Yeah, the Preservation Society existed for probably about 12 years now that you've done that, isn't it?
So I have connections to Beck to say a little bit.
Yeah.
The Beck it's just celebrated its 50th anniversary.
Yeah, we're in our 52nd year actually now.
Okay.
Yeah, 50 is 1967.
All right. So what has changed over the last 50 years in audio technology, and what type of technology futures are you proposing the audio industry adopts?
With a company that has started in the 60s, it's all analog to digital. Now we're on an IP, everything's moving towards an IP infrastructure. So we're on an audio over IP AES 67 transport mechanism.
AES standards, yeah.
And we're here at the CBC supporting the AES and supporting what we're doing here for pushing the technology forward.
Super cool. The AES 67 portion is just the transport of audio.
That's correct. That's the lowest commonality of audio transport. So any device that supports AES 67 means that it should transmit and receive AES 67 audio, so they should receive one another transparently.
So why is there such a huge confusion in the market over these different audio over IP formats? Like, what's the confusion?
I believe it comes from there's been various standards. There's been proprietary standard. I don't want to call them standards. Proprietary development before AES 67 came along. And then it came to a point where, well, it's audio on an RJ45. Why can't it plug into this? Why can't it plug into that?
Yeah.
So companies were holding the technology hostage in some instances,
okay,
where they were using it to leverage buy my equipment,
right,
and stay in my ecosystem.
Yes, yeah.
And now with AES 67, it's leveled the playing field for these types of equipment manufacturers, so that it should just be transparent. It should just plug in. It should be available to everybody.
Right.
And the same thing's happening with AES 70. AES 70 is the control protocol of some of these things. So if you need to turn a microphone up or push a mute or something of this nature.
How do you do it?
Yeah, it's a mechanism in how these devices communicate small messages that are sent across the network to turn a mic down or to push a mute.
Yeah.
To change the mix.
The panic of something's feeding back. How do I adjust a networked speaker that has no physical controls on it anymore?
Right, exactly.
You have to have some kind of control over it.
Yeah, and ultimately pulling the plug is not always an option in a broadcast environment.
That is true. That is very true.
We put in all these mechanisms for redundancies and resiliencies that at the end of the day, you still need that handle to turn it on, turn it up, turn it off.
Very much so. Very much so. Well, and devices aren't necessarily at your reach anymore.
That's right. There's a lot of remote production that's happening, and with AES 70 being pushed forward, you can work remotely. You could send those messages across a network, and have your producer sit somewhere completely different than where the action is actually taking place.
Yeah. How does being involved in the AES community influence your business decisions? Does AES partnering with SMPTE change your direction of the company?
Well, I think that it's a very important aspect because we are following standards. Standards are very, very important because otherwise it's the Wild West.
Yeah.
I'm just developing another proprietary solution
Right.
to sell to a client that I'm building my own walled garden, that trying to sell you something that isn't interoperable with somebody else. And the whole point of what we're doing is Beck is not a one-stop shop for everything that a client like the CBC needs. We're an audio specialist. We're not a video specialist. We're not a lighting specialist. Mm-hmm. And these things need to work with one another in an ecosystem that is as easy as it should be. They should work harmoniously together. They shouldn't be working against one another.
Well, there is money in interoperability and there's money in uninteroperability at the same time.
Sure.
So my curiosity of that is now that this standard has been adopted and is championed by, I would say, broadcast. The broadcast is a big pusher of this.
AES 67, certainly. It's been an existing standard for a number of years, mm-hmm. and is being adopted by all of the major players that are doing audio over IP.
Right.
And AES 70 is emerging. It's certainly getting more traction because connection management, there's NMOS and there's groups that are dealing with this types of connection management and the repository on where the SDPs are kept.
Yeah.
There's people working on this kind of stuff, but there wasn't a lot of people working on, I want to push this mute button.
Yeah.
And what messages sent across the network.
The business logic.
Yes. So Beck started adopting AES 70 probably about 6 months ago. We started experimenting with it. And it's been adopted. We've adopted it with our Primo device, and SMPTE is starting to look at it. NMOS is very good for connection management and discovery protocol, but it's missing this element of the volume needs to turn up.
The event and tally.
Yes,
so
and that's IS-07.
Yeah.
So this is a SMPTE standard that.
Oh, it's a SMPTE standard. It's an AMWA work initiative.
Right. Sorry for the clarification. AES 70 fills that niche very well.
Yeah.
It's a missing element of the AMWA initiative.
Yeah.
But it's being worked on in a different work group.
For sure. So part of my involvement with the AES is I get involved with the standards and the subcommittees and blah blah blah. And one of the hot topics there is how do we integrate this with IS-07? So you have a structure that is AES 70, a definition that we can all agree on, and then we're just transferring messages from there. It's just simple message brokering. So it's very interesting to see where that will end up. But is participating in standards a very important part of the business? Is it following the standards or is it following the customer demands?
Well, I think because it has been the Wild West for so many years that customers are looking for that standardization.
Right.
That's what I find is that. The customer is looking for some sort of standard that they can say, yes, there is some sort of level of guarantee that these will work with one another.
Right.
And it shouldn't be on the customer's shoulders to figure that out.
This is true.
It's on the industry to figure this out, to say, well, within this scope, these devices should work with one another.
So,
and there's some interpretation of the standards that still makes for things to not play well with one another. Yeah. And there's other companies that do the bare minimum so that they can say they participate within the standards, but then they don't do enough to support the standard initiative.
Yeah.
The point of the standards is to encourage interoperability and not say this business should be my business because I built this ecosystem up
Right.
in the past.
So you had recently in AIMS, there's a certification for 2110 certified box.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about the process of taking something that is an idea and turning it into a reality and getting that type of certification.
Well, there's a lot of travel involved. A lot of these interops happen in the United States, sometimes in Europe. There's vendors that are championing these and hosting these events. Fox is a big host of some of these events. So there's a lot of travel involved. It's plug fests. It's going and plugging your device in
Right.
and testing them out, going to your competitors, plugging them in, trying to make your competitors' devices fail,
Yeah.
and trying to
make-
challenge your competitors to make your device fail.
Absolutely,
What does
yeah.
not work?
Yeah.
And we're doing this for the benefit of our collective clients.
Yeah.
It should be best of breed, not using technology as a barrier to
Yeah.
the success.
Very true. Tell us a little bit about what you brought to the AES and why you think Toronto needs to experience some of the things that you brought today.
Well, Toronto is a technology hub. We are Hollywood North. We have some of the best broadcasters on the planet locally in Toronto. And this is the inaugural event, so I hope to see more of it. It's important for us to showcase our devices to our clients and to our distribution network. It's
Yeah.
difficult to travel to the places like Texas for the Fox Interops, and also hit even the smaller markets like Montreal, where we have to go and visit our clients and visit our distribution network.
Yeah.
There's a lot of travel that's involved there. So if you can have a hub, a technology event where you can have a hub and everybody comes together, it's not an NAB event. NAB is complete information overload.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of there's still a lot of proprietary stuff happening,
Right.
even at something like NAB. Here with the AES championing the event, it's opening the protocols,
That's
opening
good.
up the protocols.
That's very good. That's very good. So thinking 5 years ahead, not to give away anything that you have in development or that you would like to develop, but what do you think is missing in terms of market products that maybe somebody hasn't thought of, or something that give us a secret insight into the future, Kevin?
I believe everything, every device, every endpoint, every device, whether it's a transmitter or receiver, will have either a RJ45 or a fiber optic port on it, and that's going to be the transport mechanisms, whether that's SMPTE 2110 IP-based video, or if it's SMPTE 2110-30 IP-based audio,
Right.
AES 67, Audinate, Dante. It's going to be IP one way or the other.
One way or the other.
Yeah.
So now that I think about it, so when I was with Ward Beck doing my college thesis, I guess it was, we worked on a thing called QTP.
Yes.
And Ward Beck was very much I'm going to say pioneer in that. Tell us a little bit about AES 72.
So AES 72 was a standard that was initiated by the amount of the Wild West that was out there that I alluded to before. It's audio, whether that's analog audio or digital AES3 audio over quad twisted pair.
Okay, so
it's
four wires.
Four pairs of wire. Four pairs of wire.
And the 4 pairs can be used for analog or for digital.
Yes, and the quad twisted pair, in Cat 6, the twist ratio is different per pair, so it's a very good audio conductor just out of the box.
Yeah.
It does not accept noise very well. If the signal is properly balanced, then you don't have any noise issues there.
Yeah, and one of the little devices that Ward Beck makes is the little plug-in DB25.
Yes, we make. There's a handful of products that we make. We make a device called a Bobcat, which is a breakout box for cat cable. We make something that we call Cat cattails internally, where it's a breakout cable where you have XLRs on one end and it's a RJ45 on the other, and then we have the DB25, the D sub 25 that is on almost every piece of analog gear that I know of, and that can either follow what's known as a Yamaha standard or a Tascam standard, and that's the pin out standards of those.
It's also AES 59.
Oh, I've learned something today.
So the AES has standards that influence manufacturers from a connection level, from a protocol level, from a whole bunch of stuff.
Right.
So what really made you want to join the AES, and right now you're participating a little bit with the Toronto Executive. Tell us your involvement with the community.
Well, my involvement with AES on the exec is quite new. It's only 4 months in or something like that. So I'm learning the ropes of my involvement there. But Ward Beck as a company has been involved with AES for many, many years. And we're starting to get involved with SMPTE, and seeing the cross-pollination of some of these working groups is very, very important, because it gives you insight into, it doesn't give you the answer, but it gives you insight into the direction of the industry.
Right.
And customers are looking for the standardization bodies to get a barometer on the direction of the industry. And from a manufacturer side, if I'm not paying attention to these working groups, then it's a collective work group. It's ultimately what it is. So it's paying attention to the commonalities between all of these different areas of audio.
Yeah.
So we're targeting broadcast. Audio engineering doesn't stop at broadcast. There's a big gaming element in where the industry is going.
Right.
Virtual reality, artificial intelligence. Audio is involved in all of those. Immersive, object-based audio. It's all standards driven. All of these things. Mm-hmm. At the beginning, it starts to be, if you're the only one, you're developing the standard.
Right.
Whether you realize it or not, you are developing a standard. You might as well put it through the audio engineering group as a proposal.
Yeah.
The first time around.
Yeah.
Rather than not, and then fight down the road.
Your idea. Well, and that's the thing about standards is also it's a lot of very smart people who have business interests in them. Choose my way of doing it. Choose my way of doing it.
It very quickly becomes political, because it ultimately involves money, where we're all companies. There's only one pie. We're after our own slice to make our businesses go. So.
But in 2019, the cheese has moved, right? It's
certainly for broadcast. If it hasn't moved, it is certainly moving, and it's a very IP-based direction.
My experience with IP has been the job doesn't end at the network; it almost begins at the network, and there's a huge network component of it. What advice can you give to young audio engineers in the future, and what they're able to do?
The health of it's not like Anthony says, it's not about the device that's on the network. It's the network as a whole. It is the health of the network is critical. Your PTP messages have to be there. The quality service of the network switches, they have to be groomed.
Yeah.
So
control.
We've developed an endpoint, a transceiver audio endpoint for networks. And we've had to learn a lot by trial and error, and there was nobody saying this is the way to do that. The Audio Engineering Society could give you a little bit of advice with some of the things that you should be trying or shouldn't be trying.
Yeah.
And when we started developing what we're developing, the work group wasn't quite there yet.
Yeah.
AES 67 was still just emerging.
Well, Kevin, this is fantastic. Thank you very much for participating in the show.
This has been a great inaugural event. I hope to see more of it in the future.
Me too. Well, thank you for involvement with the exec and being a part of our Toronto community. It's very important. We're going to now go to the show floor and check out some stuff.
Stop by the Ward Beck booth number 17.
There you go. Cheers. Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.